Hey, this is Andy Jenkins, and welcome to the podcast. This week, I'm back with Coach's Series, and what that is I try to bring someone here who is an expert in some area. Now, this one, I'm actually going to bring my friend Amanda Hicks on. She is, in my opinion, an expert in fitness, and she's gotten there the hard way. Now, some people become an expert in fitness because they go train in a school and learn in the classroom for years and get certifications and all of those sorts of things, and that's completely valid, and that is extraordinarily honorable. Other people become experts because they walk out a journey where they literally cut their body weight in half. There's this whole movement. It's called body transformation, and it is this healthy look where people who were obese, they begin losing weight. They do it in a healthy way over time, lots of time generally with nutrition and exercise and science and practical tips and taking steps to walk it out with accountability and working together. It is this movement that actually Amanda has done amazingly well. And so I have, and my wife has met her and her husband Johnny through this new 1B7 project that we're doing with ULA. Now, that project is really designed to help people through a digital platform find balance and growth in the 7 key areas of life. Here's why I mention that, because Amanda's on our team. I'm going to put a link down in the show notes where you can learn more about some of the diet and nutrition products that she's going to talk about. You can follow her on Instagram. You can go and watch on Facebook her body transformation story, where she talks about being plus 300 and then coming down under 200 and moving to her ideal weight. All of that's there. I'm also going to put the information about the 1B7 movement, because it is this digital platform that helps people, meaning helps me, Amanda, people like you, find balance in the 7 key areas of life. So 7 key areas: fitness, that's the first one. We're talking about that today. Finance, family, your field, that is your career, whatever you do full time. Faith, friends, and fun. They're like spokes on a wheel, and when one spoke goes down, that wheel might get a little wobbly. If it gets too wobbly, it's gonna eventually grind your progress to a halt. In this episode, you're gonna hear how that fitness spoke, when it's down, it really affects other areas. And in fact, you might not necessarily know how good the other areas could be until you start taking care of that one. Now, to take care of that one, you don't have to jump into CrossFit. You can. You don't have to be an amazing athlete. You could be. You don't have to run in a marathon. You might want to. You don't have to run a 5K. In fact, you're going to hear Amanda say first thing she did one the first week she started, or the first month she started losing weight, but she did it by just walking, where the goal was just to start and the goal was just to finish. Now, listen in, because she's going to, through just an amazing story, break this down. Super simple, easy peasy. And by the way, you need to follow her on Instagram, because you're gonna notice her as the girl with the pink hair. All right, here's the story, my time on Zoom with Amanda Hicks. You've done this body transformation. I'm not even sure if that's the accurate word, but how much weight have you lost?
So total from my highest weight ever, I'm down 130 pounds.
Okay, that's like a human.
A whole person, yeah.
That's a whole person. To put it in perspective.
Yes.
130.
So, yeah, my goal, I do want to lose about 15 to 20 more. Okay. And that'll put me basically at about half of what I was.
Oh, so, geez. Okay. So obviously there's going to be a big story behind all of that. Here's what I would like to know is at what point do you decide, hey, I'm going to change something? Because does that make sense?
Yeah. I'll just say this. I've struggled my whole adult life with my weight. You know, I did the up and down, tried every different kind of diet. And ultimately for me, it was about 3.5 years ago. My life, I hit rock bottom. Like I felt like I had nowhere else to go. And so I've had friends who have watched my story and they've asked me the same thing, you know, as far as how do you know when it's time to make a change? Well, for me, like, you get sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I knew that if I didn't make a change, I was probably going to end up dead by the time I was in my mid 40s, just because I was miserable. I wasn't happy. There were so many areas of my life that was just so kinds of messed up, and I just had to take care of me. I had spent so much time trying to take care of other people's needs that I eventually decided to be, for lack of a better term, very selfish and look at what was best for me.
Well, we think of like selfish as necessarily a bad word because it always has a negative connotation when we use it. But I mean, really, and even that term self-care, and there's so many armchair quarterbacks that are, well, armchair psychologists that toss out these words on the internet that I think really don't know what they mean. And so it kind of taints words like that when we see somebody say something like self-care. But I think you really mean everything that you're going to do in life is a kind of an overflow out of you. And so if you don't take care of you or manage you or steward you, you really can't do anything else. That you're kind of the body's kind of the container of the ideas, the connections for relationships, everything.
Yeah, I wanted to be good and healthy so that way I could have a good, healthy relationship with my husband, so that we could have good, healthy fun together, go on adventures, travel. I remember going on vacations and being so physically uncomfortable that we couldn't really go do any adventures. We couldn't go hiking. We couldn't, my weight limit, couldn't do stuff like parasailing and just walking in the park. So there was a lot of it that I needed the change for myself, but I wanted the change also so that I could be my best self in order to have fun and live life with my husband and my family and my friends.
Right. Well, I mean, we were on a Zoom call with my wife and you and Johnny not too long ago. And I remember just kind of saying to him, a lot of times when you see one spouse or the other make a radical change, like literally cutting their weight in half and then getting in, I know a lot of people can't see you right now, but when you say to me, I'm going to lose 15 to 20 pounds more, like in my mind, like you look extremely fit right now. And so, I mean, you're doing these body transformation competitions that, a lot of people that are listening don't know about. I'll put some links down in the show notes about that. So, you look extremely fit. This isn't like you've lost weight and still have all this weight to go. And so many times when that kind of transformation happens, one of the partners becomes very nervous, anxious. I've seen it derail marriage relationships where people had been together for decades. But he's been just the opposite. He's been your biggest cheerleader, like in the corner, like pushing and pulling and shouting.
He really has. Now, when I first started, he had some resistance, like the first year and a half or so. Because, and honestly, I think it was just doubt. Amanda's done, these yo-yo diets before, and she's never really stuck with it. So I'm just going to sit back and watch and see what happens. And I really think that was his initial reaction when I started this journey in 2018. But then eventually he realized, okay, she's actually sticking with this. She hasn't given up on it yet. I guess I better get in the game a little bit more. And, you know, he was always supportive in regards to eating the meals that I would fix. And, you know, he would, you know, cheer for me if I wanted to go do a 5K or a 10K or a half marathon or anything like that. But eventually he saw my whole demeanor change, like my confidence, like, you know, I didn't, you know, I walked straighter and just felt better about myself. And I think it kind of rubbed off on him. And he joked with me recently. He said, "Yeah, you were getting looking really good, babe. And I was afraid, you know, that you were going to trade me in for a younger model, and I just couldn't have that. So that's why I had to get on my toes too."
That's funny. Yeah, well, I mean, some of that might be why some people sometimes feel nervous about those transitions and changes, that they might, you know, be left behind. So it breeds that insecurity. Yeah. Okay, talk to me about this. A minute ago, you know, I was asking you kind of what was the thing that was just, oh, I'm gonna do this. And you know, you just kind of said, well, it was probably just kind of a lot of things pulling together.
Yeah.
Answer this: is being, you know, twice the weight that you are now, approximately. So, I mean, let's just use the term. It's obese, probably even morbidly obese at that time.
It was morbidly obese, like medically morbidly obese.
Would that be a symptom of deeper stuff that's going on internally? Does that make sense?
I absolutely think so.
And I know we can only answer for you. We can't answer for everybody else that's out there. So just as far as your story, like.
Yeah, for me, I do think a lot of it was lack of education too. You know, I didn't really have the greatest education growing up in regards to finances or to meal cooking or just to health. It really has been a journey for me as far as, you know, doing my research, you know, just eating healthier. I mean, my goodness, I'm notorious about finding rabbit trails and snuffing them out until you can't go any further. I mean, that's really one of the things I do in my day job is find rabbit trails. But as I started doing research for my, you know, as far as health, you know, seeing the health implications with processed foods and restaurants and you know, just ingredients and things like that, it really was a learning experience for me. And you know, the deeper things that were really holding me back, I wasn't happy with how I felt. I couldn't walk up a flight of stairs without getting winded. There's just I mean, even sitting in a car for 2 hours worth of travel, just getting uncomfortable. Just there were so many things that you don't realize. I will say this: I didn't realize how much pain I was in until I got to a point where I felt so much better. Dave Ramsey has made. I'm a big fan of Dave Ramsey, and he's made some references before about sitting in a poopy diaper like a baby. You know, it's warm but it's mine, you know, and I'm happy in it, kind of thing. Honestly, you don't realize how miserable you are until you get on the other side.
Yeah. You just kind of tolerate some of what you just think of as normal.
Yeah, I mean, like sitting in an airplane seat, I was so wide that, you know, my arms weren't comfortable on the armrest and you know, trying to get into the seat belt and everything. I mean, thinking back, some of it's kind of traumatic, just thinking back what I used to deal with. And I think that reflecting on those things helps motivate me in that I am so much further along in my life now that I don't ever want to be back in that place. I'm going to do what I can to continue to move forward, because it's so much better on this side. I have friends who I have been trying for years to, and like, one of the reasons why I share my story the way that I do is because I have friends who are where I was, and I want desperately for them to experience where I am now. And, you know, using my own experience, I think they just haven't hit the absolute rock bottom point to where they're ready to make the change yet.
So tell me this, how do you actually start when you're doing it, like a whole body transformation? Like, you're going from, because I imagine when you're obese, you can't just go out and run, like, right now I'm in pretty good shape. And so I can feel it when I gain 5 or 10 pounds from the holidays. Like I gained 20 pounds over COVID, and I'm like, well, I guess I'll just go run and lift weights. But, and even that's a slow start, restart. Mm-hmm. But I imagine when you can't, like I don't even have words for, like, how do you even begin? Because I know there are people that are listening, they're going, well, it seems like you can say that because you can go run 5 miles right now. You can go do this, or you can go, but how do you even begin? Like, what's the...
Well, all right. So can I tell about my weight loss program that I actually used?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So the weight loss program that I use is a company called Shibboleth, and they are actually a faith-based weight loss ministry.
Do you have a link? And I put it down here.
Yes, I can. Okay. I can provide a link. It's myshibboleth.com/sponsor/ahicks07.
Yeah.
But I can give that to you later.
Yeah, I'll put it down if you're listening and you want to follow that. I'm gonna put the link down here. Okay, so you had a program.
So this program, the reason why it worked for me, I tried everything else. I tried Weight Watchers, I tried Atkins, I tried Wheat Belly, like I tried everything. The reason that I liked Shibboleth so much is because it taught me how to measure moderation. We've always heard everything's fine in moderation. I'm a very numbers kind of gal. I need to be able to measure. I need to know how many French fries I'm allowed to eat. I need to know if I'm allowed to have that cupcake. And if I do have that cupcake, how do I need to balance it out for moderation? Yes. So when I had actually done the program many years ago, back in 2014, 2015, I had good success for about a year. My life fell apart for the next 2 to 3 years after that. And I got back on board, like I got real serious January 2018. And what I did in 2018 is I'd already known the program because I had experience with it before. I knew the basics. I knew the ins and outs of it. But essentially, the way I started then was I committed to 30 days. I told myself, I'm going to do this for 30 days just to see what happens. And like you said, you can't just start and, run 5 miles or whatever. But the thing about Shibboleth is it meets you where you are. So if you're used to eating fast food, if you're used to eating peanut butter and jelly, if you're used to having pizza and fries and things like that, you can still have those things. But what it does is it teaches you how to replace certain ingredients that are less bad for you and will actually help you. So, like, for example, we've heard of the high protein cookies. There's certain brands, Buff Bake cookies, Quest bar, or the company Quest makes some good chocolate chip cookies and things like that. So the term that they use is void replacements. So if you want Cheez-Its, you love Cheez-Its on the road. Well, instead of eating Cheez-Its, there's, they're called double bites. There's a void replacement. It basically tastes like Cheez-Its. It's close enough to the taste of Cheez-Its. So if you really want Cheez-Its, don't eat Cheez-Its, eat these double bites instead, because that way you won't feel like you're being deprived. And I think with a lot of weight loss programs it's a lot of elimination diet where you can't have a certain thing, and Shibboleth is not about that. There is nothing you can't have on Shibboleth. They teach you how to find good void replacements and how to replace ingredients that are better for you. Well, okay, so I mentioned peanut butter and jelly. Well, you could still have peanut butter and jelly. They teach you what types of bread to look for, bread that's not going to harm you. They teach you how to look for peanut butter. Like, you can have any peanut butter. So on our program, you can have any peanut butter as long as hydrogenated oil is not in the ingredients list. So you want natural peanut butter that doesn't have hydrogenated oils. So they teach you certain things to look for. So you can still have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You just got to change out your bread and change out the cheap processed peanut butter and get you some natural peanut butter instead. And so in that first 30 days, I made a commitment that I was going to follow the program as strict as I could. And in my first 30 days, I lost 26 pounds. Now, that 26 pounds was, a lot of it was water and waste and inflammation. But even still, the number on the scale mentally for me at the time, I'm like, I'm making good progress.
Well,
like,
that was still stuff you were carrying. I mean, even if it was water and inflammation, it still was.
Yeah. Yes. And it was just enough of a motivator. So I gave myself 30 days. I had lost 26 pounds in 30 days. I'm like, okay, well, there's no reason for me to stop now. I've come this far. I might as well just keep doing what I'm doing. And that's really what it is if you can stick to something long enough to see the results. If you give up after 2 or 3 days, you're just going to keep doing what you've been doing. But my life had hit such rock bottom that I didn't have any other choice. And so I made a commitment to myself. I told myself that I was worth it and that nothing was going to stop me and nothing was going to get in my way. And I followed the program. I ate accordingly. I had lots of void replacements. I was still able to eat cookies. I was still able to eat peanut butter and jelly. I had pizza. I would use an approved tortilla shell as a pizza crust and found some great pasta sauce and fat-free mozzarella cheese to put on it, and made my own pizzas at home. Those types of things is what helped me stick to the program and not feel deprived.
All right. So, I mean, one of the things I just picked out of that was not restrictive, and another one was you committed really kind of to a, for lack of a better term, baby step. Like, okay, I can. Yeah. I'm not trying to do this for the next. I mean, you started in 2018. It's 2021 now, but I mean, you didn't commit to like a 3-year run or 2.5 years, whatever it's been. At the time, it was 30 days. It was, hey, just this month, this is what I'm doing. And so if, people were listening, kind of cue into that and said, okay, I'm not committing to losing 50 pounds, or I'm not committing to losing 100, or I'm not committing for the next 5 years. Like, this isn't a marriage. This is just, this is like a 30-day. This is just like one date. You're just going to test this and just see if this thing, but when you go, I mean, just like going on the date, you got to be fully present. Like, it's not going to work if you're scrolling your phone and all that. Like, you got to do that. You got to do it. You get in.
Yes.
Okay. You've mentioned a couple times, like you hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
And so like that precipitated something. Do you want to tell me about that?
So, trying to figure out how to not give too much detail and be too long-winded. Long story short, because of my health, because of where I was, my husband and I suffered from infertility, that we both got tested, and there were issues on both sides of the table. And so that was really hard to deal with. We discovered that back in 2011. And, over the next few years, I did the whole, multiple diets, trying to get my health in order to see if we could reverse that diagnosis.
Yeah.
And eventually we were led to a place that, okay, we're fine not being biological parents. That's cool. And we came to peace with that. Well, once we were at peace with that, we were presented with the idea of possibly adopting. But we wanted to adopt through foster care, and we didn't want to adopt a baby or a small child. We were in a position where we were really involved in the youth group at our church, and we really loved teenagers.
Okay.
And I told my husband, I said, if we're going to do this, we need to seek out a teenager in foster care, because those are the ones that typically don't get the attention. They're typically the ones that stay in the system.
Yeah, everybody wants a small baby. Nobody wants.
Yeah, everybody wants a baby. And selfishly, part of the reason why I was so on board with the teenagers, one, I didn't have to potty train them. Two, they already knew how to talk and communicate. And, I felt like, from my personality and my experience, I felt like a teenager was a better fit for our family. And so we went through a process where we went through the licensing process and getting our home ready and identifying a child. And long story short, we got through all that. A teenage boy was placed in our home, and he was with us for 5 months. And I would not trade those 5 months for anything. It was glorious. It was loving. It gave me the experience of being a parent. But ultimately, that child had been in the system for so long that he wasn't able to adapt. He wasn't happy. I mean, we went through a honeymoon phase.
Yeah.
And things were good to start with for about the first 3.5 months or so. And then it crashed and burned, and it crashed and burned real fast. And we were in a position where we were willing to fight for him as long and as hard as we needed to, but we also did not want to put ourselves in a position where he was going to pull this card of, well, I'm not happy, so I want to go back. And
right.
And there was one time where he threatened that, and we had a long. The other thing about him being 16 years old is we had the hard, conversation with him of, look, if you go and tell the pastors or the teachers or whatever that you're not happy, they're going to come investigate us, and they could take you away from us. So this is not a threat that you can make. This and I feel like maybe that's one of the real world examples, that if nothing else out of that 5 months that he learned with us, is that there are consequences for your actions.
Yeah.
And so to this day, we still don't know why things ultimately didn't work out, but I hope that we had the positive impact on him that we needed to. And maybe that was part of it. Maybe it was learning a life lesson of, hey, there are consequences for your actions. And so ultimately things didn't work out. He requested to go back. He was at an age where he had a choice in the matter. And so we respected his wishes. And but after that put us both in a very deep depression.
Yeah, because you've had, at that point, you've had several things that have not worked out that you thought were going to.
Yeah.
So this is, and these are these aren't, you didn't get a ticket.
This was basically a 7-year period from 2011 through 2017.
This is heavy emotional stuff too. This is like life stuff. Like, this isn't, we were late. We didn't get to or I mean, this
Yeah.
is.
And for so he left our home 12 days before Christmas in 2017. And so we, New Year's Eve, my husband and I went away just to regroup, to rethink, just to kind of get our mind back in things. And it was on that trip that I remembered my experience with Shibboleth from several years ago, where I had had a little bit of success and then I'd fallen off the wagon in the process of doing the adoption thing. And so I told my husband then, I said, I have got to get my health in order. The last 3 years, I had been working my tail off on preparing our home for this child and, traveling back and forth to, to do adoption visits with him and working our tails off to get our home ready. I have not taken care of me.
And you're working a job.
Working. Yes, working. I was taking care of everybody else, but I was letting my health, my physical body just deteriorate. And I said, I have spent so much of my adult life taking care of other people and other things and making everything else a priority. I'm making me a priority, period.
Yeah.
And by making me, it's funny, by making me a priority, I am able to give more effort to those other areas in my life, and that effort actually come to fruition rather than falling flat. No, so it's kind of a positive snowball.
It is. I've noticed, like, part of my routine is in the morning I get up and I'll most mornings I'll get up really early, 5:36. I'll exercise. I'll then come in, get a shower. This is before really anybody else. A lot of times Beth's up, but she's kind of got her thing going on. So we don't really, we don't ignore each other. We don't really talk during that point. Like, there's not a lot of in-depth stuff, but I'll work out, get a shower. The coffee's usually made. I've got a little place. I'll go sit and read, get out my Bible. I'll take some notes. A lot of those turn into like social media posts or things that I teach or write later on, kind of unintentionally. Like, that's not what I'm doing that time for. But I was looking back and I'm like, it takes about 2.5 hours. I'm just kind of doing my thing, and then by about 8 in the morning, 8:30, like, I'm kind of ready to go. What I've realized though, is if I sleep in and drag, like which sometimes we do, we'll just stay in the bed. We're like, it's been a busy week. Let's just stay in the bed and watch TV or let's whatever. And there's a time for that. But for the most part, I've realized if I don't take that time, it's not like, it doesn't get used for anything else. It's like either like, it just evaporates. Like, it's either I take it and I get the benefit of it and it benefits and has a ripple effect through the whole day, through the whole week for other things, or like I'll lose it. Like, it's, I don't know if that makes any sense. Like, it's not a swap out. Like, I'd have all this other free time if I didn't do this. It's like, I wouldn't. I get more out of the rest of the time.
Just be in bed.
It's weird. It's like, people go, I don't have time for that. You've probably experienced that. I don't have time for that. Well, it's really like, I've seen I wouldn't do anything else with the time, and there's so much benefit out of that time.
Yeah.
Tell me, like, at what point did you start? Okay, so you've exercised and you've done since we connected on Instagram at some point, and one of the first things I saw was like I saw you and Johnny, and then I saw like 2 or 3 posts later, I'm like, oh, she's exercising on a pole. Okay, so like, I imagine you don't go from obese to pole. You're doing some running now. Like, talk to me about, when does the exercise come in, and just give me all the little clusters of exercise stuff that you do at this point, which, knowing that, like, people that are wanting to lose weight, you don't have to go grab a pole, but.
Well, I will say this, my pole fitness journey actually started in the fall of 2015, which that was the end of the first year of me being on Shibboleth. So like so when I first did Shibboleth. I started it in fall of 2014. I
Yeah.
lost about 70 pounds that year. And so I had already lost enough weight that I was feeling pretty good about myself. And I had a friend who was taking pole classes, and she invited me. And so since I had lost a little bit of weight by that point, I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't so scary, because I should back up a little bit. Like in it may be 2011 or so. I don't remember when it was. My friend was getting married, and she had a bachelorette party, and it was at a pole studio. Well, back then I was at my
Okay.
heaviest weight
Pole
ever.
studio is not strip club. So,
No,
because what
no,
I'm trying to like, because people's minds are instantly going there. But
I do pole sport, pole fitness.
yes,
I'm not at a club.
right. Because okay, but so yeah, that's a totally different. I've actually never been to a strip club. I've done some really
Yeah,
stupid things in my life, but I've never been there. But so but it's still the same kind of pole that everybody's
yes,
like, well, I have no idea what that is. Yeah, you do. Everybody knows what those are.
yeah,
But there's
yeah,
an element of fitness where there's a fitness thing that people do with these poles.
yes,
It's funny because
yes,
on your
because there's
Instagram feed, I'll see weight loss, running, Jesus, get your finances in order. I love my husband, pole. So
yep.
okay,
Yeah. So yeah, there's an element of the fitness and the strength, and just
yeah,
you know being able to use your body to do really cool tricks, and that's really what it is for me. Is so yeah,
so
well, just to get back to
2015, you tried it, and then
yes, I tried
bachelorette
it, and
party.
I started, started learning how to do some of the basic things, what we call a fireman spin, just being able to, take your feet off the ground and spin around the pole, just learning the basics. And so I kind of dabbled in it for the first, couple of years, but then, this overlapped with the adoption process. So I didn't get to go to classes quite as often as I wanted to. And it was that January 2018, when I gave myself that 30-day commitment, I also said, you know what, I'm going to go back to classes too, because if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go all in. So I really do think I was a little bit of a beast compared to a lot of people. Like I went full force. And I know that not everybody can do that, but that's what worked for me. That's what
Yeah.
made me like get into it. Like I wasn't going to give up. I think I did a 5K that month. Now, granted, I didn't run it. I just walked it.
Well, that's good
But
for people to know those. Like you sign up, you don't have to crush this thing. You just show
no,
up.
no, just show up. I think I did it probably in like 50 minutes. Like it took almost an hour for me to do, and just do it to do it. Like
Yeah,
my
cross
first,
line.
I've done half marathons. My first 3 or 4 half marathons, I completely walked. It took me 3 hours and 45 minutes to do it. I just completely walked it. And my
Yeah,
only goal was to finish.
cross
I
the
didn't
line.
care about my time. I just wanted to
Start at this
finish.
place, finish there. That's it. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And that's really the thing is a lot of people think, well, if I can't have a great time, or if I can't do it in X period of time, or whatever unit of measure, that they don't even want to start it. And I'm not of that mindset. Well, one of the other things that you're saying is this body competitions, bodybuilding. Like I got into bodybuilding, and you made the comment about how I look fit right now. Well, I feel like I look good in my clothes, but I want to look good naked.
And Johnny's saying amen. That's
and part of the bodybuilding world is like you're in basically nothing except stuff covering the private parts.
yeah.
And I'm not of the caliber of a lot of those bodybuilders yet, but I aspire to be there. And the first bodybuilding competition that I did was transformation division. It was for those people who weren't in, the bodybuilding divisions yet, but they were working on it, and they had a story to tell that, they've had a major body transformation or a life mental transformation of some sort. And so for me, it's not about getting on stage and winning. It's about getting on stage and getting experience and
showing up.
And showing up, being around, they say to surround yourself with people you want to be like. I'm going to go to bodybuilding shows and I'm going to see people that I want to be like, people who look good naked and people who have worked their tails off. That's been part of my transformation in my journey too, is that, I want to be there for my friends who are still struggling, but I also need to surround myself with people that I want to be like, because I don't want to be in that bucket full of crabs and the negative crabs pulling me down. I want to crawl out and go on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, my dad, he's a pastor. He's in his 70s now. He's retired. Recently got rehired at a different church where he's now. He used to be like kind of the lead guy in a church. Now he's working with senior adults with just a massive church with 700-800 senior adults just in that age group. And I told him, I said, this all makes sense. I promise you. I told him, I said, you're in good health right now. You're in good shape. You're in the season in life where you've got more wisdom than you ever had. Your finances are okay because you've saved up money. You've got better relationships because you got these long-term friendships, and you're in a healthy place where you can give back the wisdom that you've gained from successes in life and from failures, where you can say, hey, dodge this landmine or don't do that. But the only reason you can do that is because you're in a healthy place, which is because he's taking care of himself, which is kind of loops to this whole message. One of the things that he has told me is don't always be the smartest guy in the room. And because of his biblical background, he'll put it in like Bible language, and he'll say, you need a Paul, you need a Barnabas, you need a Timothy in multiple areas of life. Like you need a Paul, like he's the guy that is out ahead of you. Paul's running out, planting churches, writing books of the Bible, doesn't know that he's writing books of the Bible at the time, but super smart, intelligent, out there, will survive a shipwreck. Survives being left for dead, gets up, goes back, like just strong, just a brute guy. You need a guy that's like that, that's ahead of you and stronger and can just crush it. And then you need people that are kind of on your level, like Barnabas was on Paul's level. And then you need Timothy's, like people that are, and this isn't just an age thing, people that you're helping bring along. Like you got to have all, and everybody always wants like the people behind them, but you need all three. So I think the perspective you've got on there is, phenomenal. Tell me this, like what else has changed? So since the transformation, because obviously, you look at you and go, okay, the physical stuff has changed. So you're exercising. So the routines change. You're happier. That's changed. The marriage, I imagine you guys were not in a bad place with each other. You were working through an adoption and through, the transparency of infertility and all those struggles. So I imagine you weren't in a bad place, but I imagine the marriage has gotten better just because you're healthier and you can enjoy more of life. What else is, what else is different kind of on this side?
I will say even my professional development, like me in my day job and how I interact with my coworkers, how I approach my job. Like, I don't even know how to describe my job. I do records management. I'm an internal finance specialist. I hunt down rabbit trails. I work on records management. I work on billing and things like that. But my title and my role over the last 13 years that I've been there has changed season to season. And my management has been really great with helping me hone in on things that I'm already pretty strong in and putting me on those types of tasks. But then once I get into those types of tasks, it makes me even stronger, and builds my mind, builds my thinking capacity and things like that. So I feel like, getting my health in order, I don't really quite know how to tie it together, but getting my physical health in order,
Yeah.
helped my mental health, helped me be able to exercise. Because I will say this, I'm pretty savage. I'm one of
That's
those
what's on
that
the shirt. Yeah.
yeah, I, like in my younger days, I would just spout off. Like I would spout off the first thing that I thought of without any regards to how it made other people feel or how it made me look or anything like that. And I do think that this process has introduced to me, to be a lot more graceful with people, to give people a lot more grace, and to step back and, just not assume that somebody's an idiot because they didn't previously know, just to give people the benefit of the doubt. I mean, I'm ashamed to say that I was one of those types of people that I would make a snap judgment about you, and I can truly say that I'm not like that anymore. I am. Oh, I don't know. I don't know how to say what I'm saying, but basically, like in my professional life, I feel like I've grown. I have better relationships with my coworkers. I am able to just, get my tasks done easier. I am able to, critical thinking, things like that. I don't know.
No, it makes it. Yeah, I was just kind of painting the bigger picture, because all those areas of life, they're connected. We just often don't think, how they might all flesh out. Let's end up with this one. Talk to me about like the marriage relationship and how that's gotten better.
It really has. So I will say that during the 5 months that the teenager was with us,
Yeah.
It really strengthened our bonds with one another, because we had to be team players. We had to be a team with one another. Yeah, we did not want to be good cop, bad cop, or contradicting the other. We didn't want to contradict one another. We wanted to show a unified front of what a healthy marriage should look like, because we thought that we were modeling, a good home life for this child who had not been in a home. He had been in a group home for many years, and we wanted to show him, hey, this is what real life is like.
Yeah.
And so we became a team. I mean, we were always a team, but we really became a team during that time. And it pushed us forward. It pushed us forward in regards to how we interact with one another. He has his hobbies, I have mine. We're supportive of each other. While I may not have the same hobbies that he does, I'm very supportive of him. He doesn't necessarily want to go running or go to pole class with me, but he is very supportive of me, and will be a cheerleader for me.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things where our lives do intersect and interact together. And then there are other things where we are simply, supporters on the sideline. And with regards to finances, there were times in our younger lives where, we weren't on the same page with finances. Well, I want to do this and I want to do that. And now we're at a point where we can dream together and work towards the common goal. And I mean, I do not take for granted the relationship I have with my husband, because I've got so many friends, and I know so many couples that they are not on the same wavelength. And it's hard. It's hard to see people not have what's possible, I guess.
Yeah.
I should say.
Thank you so much for sharing, your story, just kind of pulling back the curtain a little bit. I'm going to put links down here in the show notes where people can find you on Instagram. They can also, if they're interested in following kind of that diet program, and people all the time go, oh, you shouldn't use the word diet or whatever. Like, I don't know what you'd use. Like, it just make it simple. Like that's, it's like everybody knows what it is. So whatever that is, we're going to put that down there. I'm also going to put the link to where you've got a transformation story where you have talked and shared it on Facebook, more just the process of your body transformation, because that's really what we didn't avoid it, but like that's what got us here. But you've already said all that, so I kind of want to get some of the other things there. Any final thing that you would say to anybody that's kind of on the ledge here, that's knows they need change, but
honestly, it's just, I kind of mentioned this before, but you really don't realize how much pain you're in until you do actually get to the other side. And so it's just a little bit of faith. You got to have faith that in that there's something better out there. And, just being able to, like, one of the things that I've shared with you is that, like, I hate running. Like, I do 5Ks and 10Ks and stuff like that, but I hate running. I hate it. But I do it now because I physically can. And so there's an element of, being able to do something that you weren't able to before. And it doesn't necessarily have to be physical. It could just be a mental thing, like getting on a Zoom Facebook or Zoom call and like sharing your story when you hate public speaking.
Yeah.
Just, get out and just be brave and try something different. Because if you keep doing what you've always done, you keep getting what you've always got. Right.
That's a good word. Let's end on that. Yeah. Keep doing what you always done. You'll keep getting what you always got. Okay. So there you have it. Big shout out, big thanks to Amanda, and golly, props to her on the progress. Here are a couple things that I want to remind you of that she said. Number one is this: just take the next best step. It's just a baby step. Remember when she wanted to lose that weight, it just came down to, I'm doing this for 30 days. That's it. You know the phrase, how do you eat an elephant? You take one bite at a time. Just commit to taking one single bite. The second thing is take notice that she said you've got to surround yourself with people that are where you want to be. So often, I was so shocked when I was working in rehabilitation centers, helping guys that were drug addicts. And they would take advice from guys who were addicts, who couldn't kick it, didn't want to kick it, didn't want a whole job, didn't want to put their family together, didn't want to, you fill in the blanks. And they rarely, some of the guys took advice from guys that were moving forward, walking in healing, walking towards wholeness, experiencing redemption, who were where they want to be. Surround yourself with amazing people who are where you want to be. I've got a link in the show notes for you also to the Hilltop Hangout. I promise you, in that Facebook group, you will find people like Amanda, people who are where you want to be. And if you're a guy, I've got a link down there for you where you can follow that link and you can jump in with a group of guys who are where you want to be. Surround yourself with people who are where you want to be. That said, let me pray for you. My prayer for you as every single week is that the Lord would bless you. He would keep you. He would make his face of favor to shine upon you, that you would see, sense, and feel the greatness for which you were designed, that the excuses would fade, that you would sense this confidence, this humble ability to take hold of the life you've been given, that you would be able to steward that well and walk in the plans that he has designed for you from before time began. Grace and peace. I'll see you again soon.